history was never about memorization. In an age where AI can look up anything instantly, what truly matters is the ability to ask, why? This channel takes you through Japanese history by understanding cause and effect. Turning knowledge into a tool for thinking. That's the new way to learn, in the age of AI. Hello everyone, and welcome to Ancient Japan Decoded, where we don't just memorize history, we think through it. I'm glad you're here. Today we're tackling episode 001, and I want to start with a question that sounds simple on the surface, but actually isn't. Why did humans come to the Japanese archipelago? Go ahead, try to answer it right now. You might think, oh, something to do with the Ice Age, or, didn't they cross the sea somehow? But if I asked you to explain the full chain of reasoning, could you? That gap, between knowing something vaguely and being able to explain it clearly, is exactly what this series is designed to close. By the end of today, you will be able to walk someone through the complete logical chain, step by step. Let's get started. Look at the left side of this slide, those are dates. Thousands of years scattered like noise. That's what history feels like when you study it as a list of facts. Confusing, overwhelming, easy to forget. But here's the key insight on the right: history is not rote memorization, it's a drama of cause and effect. The red arrow pointing to the word logic, that's our compass for this entire series. When you learn to trace the logic asterisk of history, dates stop being random noise. They become signposts on a clear road. So instead of asking, what happened? We're always going to ask, why did it happen, and why then? That small shift in how you ask questions changes everything about how deeply you understand history. Alright, here's the backbone of everything we'll cover today. I call it the chain of causality, and once you see it, the entire story of early Japan clicks into place. Step 1: Ice Age ends. Around 10,000 years ago, Earth's climate began to warm dramatically. Step 2: Sea level rise. As ice sheets melted, ocean levels rose, changing the landscape permanently. Step 3: Habitat loss. The warming world and rising seas destroyed the habitats of large animals. Step 4: Migration and adaptation. Humans were forced to move and adapt to survive. Step 5: Jomon culture. The people who settled the Japanese archipelago built one of the world's most remarkable early civilizations. At the bottom, you see the master pattern: change in external environment, right pointing arrow; migration and adaptation, right pointing arrow; formation of new culture. Keep this in your head. We'll come back to it at the end of the video, and it will make a lot more sense. These two maps tell a dramatic story. Look at the left map. This is approximately 15,000 years ago, during the last ice age. You can see the Japanese islands are connected asterisk to the Asian continent. There are land bridges, essentially walkable paths, linking what is now Japan to Korea and Sakhalin in the north. Now look at the right map, 10,000 years ago, after the ice age ended. Those land bridges are gone. The Japanese archipelago is now completely surrounded by sea. It has become isolated. This is not a small detail. This geographical isolation is the asterisk defining force behind Japan's unique cultural development. Once the seas rose, the people on those islands were on their own, and what they built in that isolation is extraordinary. The key takeaway: major historical turning points don't begin with human decisions, they begin with changes in the physical world. The environment shifts first, then humans respond. Remember that principle. So the ice age is ending. Sea levels are rising. And now comes the survival crisis that forced everything to change. During the Paleolithic period, large animals, mammoths, giant deer, woolly rhinoceroses, were the primary food source. Humans had built their entire survival strategy around hunting these creatures. But as the climate warmed, these megafauna began to go extinct. Habitats changed too fast, they couldn't adapt, and so they disappeared. What do you do when your primary food source vanishes? You find a new one. That's exactly what early humans did. They shifted from chasing large game across open plains to hunting smaller animals, deer, boar, and foraging for plants and seafood. And here is the crucial logical leap. Chasing prey is a nomadic strategy, but finding resource-rich environments and staying in them is a settlement strategy. The Japanese archipelago, with its abundant rivers, forests, and coastlines teeming with marine life, was one of the most resource-rich places on Earth. People came, and they stayed. Look at this object. This is Jomon pottery, and it is one of the oldest pieces of fired ceramic technology in the entire world, dating back approximately 16,000 years. Let that sink in for a moment. Why does pottery matter so much? Look at the two arrows on the right. First, settlement made owning heavy pottery possible. You can't carry a ceramic pot across a continent. The very fact that people made pottery tells us they had stopped moving. They had a home. Second, cooking enabled a stable food supply and population growth. Boiling plants and shellfish made previously inedible or dangerous foods safe to eat. Cooking is a force multiplier for survival. Culture is the result of adaptation to the environment. This quote at the bottom of the slide is the philosophical heart of today's lesson. The Jomon people didn't set out to create a culture, they were solving survival problems. The culture emerged from their solutions. This slide is a direct comparison, and if you're studying Japanese history for any kind of exam, burn this into your memory. Let's go through it side by side. Notice the pattern. Every category shifts from mobile and temporary to fixed and durable. That's not coincidence. Settlement changes everything about what you make, where you live, and how you organize society. Let's zoom into the tools, because they tell us something profound. On the left, chipped stone tools, also called flaked or knapped stone. The design philosophy is speed and sharpness. You need a blade quickly so you can hunt. The tool is disposable, you move on. On the right, polished stone tools, the design philosophy is completely different. Precision and durability. You're going to use this axe to fell trees to build a house. You're going to use this adze to carve wood for a canoe. These are tools for building a permanent life. If you look at the tools, you can see the lifestyle of the era. That quote, correcting the slide's playful typo, is absolutely true. An archaeologist can look at stone tools from thousands of years ago and reconstruct not just what people ate, but how they organized their days, how they divided labor, and whether they were nomadic or settled. The objects we make are a reflection of the life we lead. Let's go deeper on the pottery, because it's one of the most remarkable archaeological artifacts in human history. Look at the characteristics labeled on this slide: thick and dark brown walls, fired at high temperatures. A distinctive rope pattern pressed into the clay before firing. This is actually where the name Jomon comes from. In Japanese, *Jomon *Shengwen literally means rope pattern. Now here's the key question the slide asks: why is it important? First, pottery allowed people to cook and store plant foods, dramatically expanding the range of edible resources. Acorns, for example, are toxic raw, but boiled and leached, they become a nutritious staple. Pottery unlocked an entirely new food supply. Second, and this is the point I want you to really absorb, heavy, fragile ceramic pots cannot be carried during nomadic life. The very existence of these pots is proof that the people who made them weren't moving. They were home. Pottery is a proxy for settlement. Now we come to one of archaeology's greatest paradoxes. The most informative artifacts from the Jomon period are ancient garbage dumps. Shell mounds, called *kaisuka*, in Japanese, are exactly what they sound like: enormous piles of discarded shells, bones, and other refuse accumulated over thousands of years. The most famous example in Japan is the Omori Shell Mound in Tokyo, first excavated in 1877 by the American zoologist Edward S. Morse. But don't let the garbage dump framing fool you. Look at what archaeologists pull out of these sites. What is excavated food remains: shells, fish bones, animal bones, broken tools, and, remarkably, human bones from burial sites beneath the midden layers. What we learn: diet and nutrition, the natural environment of the time, social structure, burial rituals, and even evidence of trade and long-distance contact. The slide calls shell mounds the Jomon period's data center, and that's exactly right. Every layer of a shell mound is a time-stamped record of human life. They are irreplaceable. Here's where today's lesson becomes something much bigger than ancient Japan. Look at the pattern at the top of this slide. External environment change, right pointing arrow, migration, right pointing arrow, new society formation. We saw this with the Jomon people. But watch what happens when we zoom out across history. Row 1, Japan, Jomon period, end of Ice Age, right pointing arrow, people migrate to the Japanese archipelago, right pointing arrow, Jomon culture emerges. That's our story. Row 2, world history, 4th century, the Huns sweep westward from Central Asia, combined with climate shifts, right pointing arrow, Germanic peoples are pushed into Roman territory, right pointing arrow, the Western Roman Empire collapses and Western European nation-states are born. Same pattern. Row 3, modern era, global warming and prolonged drought. Right pointing arrow. Climate refugees flee from the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa to Europe. Right pointing arrow. The challenges of multicultural society. The same pattern is unfolding right now, in our world. History is not a list of past events. It is a user manual for understanding the present. One of the things that makes this series different is that we're going to use AI as a thinking partner, not just as an answer machine. Here are 3 prompts you can take directly to an AI chatbot after watching this video. Prompt 1, Comparison. Compare the differences between Jomon and agrarian societies in terms of food, tools, and social structure. This trains your ability to organize and contrast. The AI's answer will reveal how food stability leads to labor specialization, which leads to social hierarchy, which leads eventually to the state. You'll see the whole arc. Prompt 2, Causality. Why did the Jomon period last for 10,000 years, while the Yayoi period changed so rapidly? This trains causal reasoning. The answer involves climate, new immigrants, and agricultural technology, 3 variables that interact to produce sudden, dramatic change. This is also a preview of our next episode. Prompt 3, Modern Connection. What are the common points between the settlement of Jomon people and modern climate refugees? This trains pattern recognition across time. The answer will echo everything we discussed in slide 11. Don't use AI to get answers, use it to stress test and deepen your own thinking. Let's lock in what we covered today with 3 structural keywords. Keyword 1, Chain of Causality. Ice Age ends. Right pointing arrow. Sea level rise. Right pointing arrow. Migration. Right pointing arrow. Settlement. This is the logical spine of early Japanese history. Keyword 2, Adaptation and culture. Pottery, polished stone tools, and shell mounds are not random artifacts. They are all evidence of one thing: people settling down and adapting to their environment. Keyword 3, Universal pattern. Environmental change driving migration, which produces new cultures, is a principle that applies from 10,000 BC to the headlines of today's news. If you can explain these 3 points clearly to someone else, you have truly understood today's content. That's the test I always recommend: teach it to someone else. That glowing grain of rice you see on screen is not an accident. It's a symbol of everything that comes next. In our next episode, Historical Thinking times AI number 002, we ask, why did farming spread throughout the Japanese archipelago? Think about what you now know. The Jomon people sustained themselves for 10,000 years without agriculture. So what changed? What force was powerful enough to overturn 10 millennia of cultural stability? How did the start of farming dramatically change Japanese society? Question for number 002. I hope today's episode gave you not just knowledge, but a way of thinking that you'll carry into everything you study. History is a chain of causes and effects, and now you know how to read that chain. If this video was useful, please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people who want to think more deeply about history. See you in the next episode, and keep asking why.